जनवरी को जब अयोध्या में प्रभु राम विराजमान हो, अपने घरों में भी श्री राम ज्योति जलाएं, दीपावली मनाएं।
22 तारीख को एक चुनावी फ्लेवर, इलेक्शन फ्लेवर, पॉलिटिकल फ्लेवर दे दिया। इसीलिए कांग्रेस प्रेसिडेंट ने इनकार किया वहां जाना।
22 জানুয়ারিও আমরা, এটা কিন্তু আমার দলের প্রোগ্রাম, আমি নিজে একটা র্যালি করব।
Hello and welcome to the big Mandir debate, temple and elections. For the last fortnight, ahead of Monday's Pran Pratishtha inauguration ceremony in Ayodhya, political parties have been tied in a fierce political debate in this big general election year. While the BJP and Prime Minister Modi have unapologetically led the Mandir rituals across the country, the opposition is mostly staying out, some even criticizing the Modi government for what they claim is a religious ceremony being turned into a political spectacle. All this, of course, is in the build-up to the 2024 general elections. So how will the Mandir issue play out electorally? Will other livelihood issues be able to trump the Mandir card, or will Hindutva win out? What of the India Alliance and Rahul Gandhi's Nyaya Yatra? To answer those questions, we're joined by special guest Swapan Das Gupta, who's been a BJP leader and political commentator. Yogendra Yadav is co-founder Swaraj India. He's part of Rahul Gandhi's Nyaya Yatra. Rahul Verma, fellow at Center for Policy Research, does a lot of data analysis. Pavan Kumar Verma, author, diplomat and former MP of the JDU in the Rajya Sabha. And we'll also be joined at some stage by Suman C. Raman, political analyst, to give us a perspective from Chennai. I'm going to put big questions on the show, and the first big question on this roundtable on temple and elections is simply this. Are the Ram Mandir ceremonies about politics or religion or both? Swapan Das Gupta, why don't you take that question right at the top? Are the Ram Mandir ceremonies about politics or religion or both?
I think if you really want to answer that, I mean, it's quite apparent that it's about both in various ways. There is undeniably a very important political dimension, because the Ram Mandir issue was not merely about constructing a temple. It was about redefining India's nationhood. And to that extent, this comes as a culmination of a sustained 32-year-old agitation. Even some people would say even more, but at least in modern politics, it would say about 32 years. And that is, no doubt about it, is the advent of the political Hindu in the public sphere. But at the same time, it is undeniable that for a large number of people, the entire issue of the Ram Mandir is a matter of faith. It's a question of Hindu asmita. And I think both are coexisting, and sometimes they merge, and there's a synergy which has been given to the both these impulses. And so to answer your question in a very brief way, yes, it's both.
You're saying it's both.
Yes.
Do you want to respond to that, Yogendra Yadav? Swapan Das Gupta is unambiguously saying that this symbolizes, in a way, the arrival of the political Hindu in the public sphere. So it's about religion, it's also about politics, especially because it's a big general election year.
Rajdeep, the advantage of debating with an intelligent person like Swapan Das Gupta is that he doesn't at least deny things which are absolutely clear and apparent to everyone. Of course, as he rightly puts it was never about the Mandir. It was about creating what he calls a new nationalism. Let me give it a slightly different perspective to it. Of course, I agree. It was never about temple. BJP was never serious about temple. As we know, Ram Mandir and Ayodhya actually did not even figure on their agenda till the early 80s. So it is about creating a new kind of majoritarian politics in this country. I would add a few things to it, and I'm sure Swapan may not agree with that. We have a different perspective, but we can have an intelligent disagreement. It is about creating a politics, not merely a politics of majority. It is about creating a political insecurity in a country among 80% population of a country. Ridiculous, isn't it, that 80% can be made to feel insecure? It is about politics of revenge. It is about politics of sense of inferiority. It is about, as Pratap Mehta has rightly said, it is a colonization of Hindu religion by political power. So what we are witnessing has nothing to do with dharma, maryada, or any kind of sense of propriety. It is not about religion. It is not about Maryada Purushottam's Maryada. It is about stamping a certain kind of political superiority of the majority. This goes against anything that Dharma or Maryada stands for.
Can I just get Swapan Dasgupta to respond to that? Because what Yogendra Yadav seems to suggest, it is not about the temple at any stage. It has nothing to do with religion. It is simply an instrument for political power by making Hindus feel insecure.
No, it's not about insecurity. It's about assertion. And I think it's about assertion because it's redefining the Hindus to be what they are and what has been denied to them for about 1,000 years. The entire notion of what constituted the Hindu was shaped and to a very large extent distorted by experience of subordination, political subordination, and the Ram Janmabhoomi movement was one of the most important steps in which the Hindus came into their own. And I think this, the securing the temple and the Pran Pratishtha ceremony on 22nd marks a high point in that. It's not the end of it. It's not the entire thing about the political Hindu, but the political Hindu is a very important element of what constitutes the Hindu in its totality. There is the religious Hindu, of course, and I'm not saying that, and that religious Hindu is obviously a part of this, very important part of this movement. But alongside with it, the impetus, the direction, the thrust was given to it by the political Hindu.
Okay.
And I think Yogendra doesn't deny what I'm saying. And I mean, we are both sort of saying the same thing. He's putting it in a different way.
I think you're saying very, let me just say, I think you're saying very different things. In many ways, at least.
No, we are not saying very different things.
You're saying it in a very positive manner.
He doesn't like it, I like it.
That's right. You're saying it as a positive.
He doesn't like it, I like it. That's all there is this.
Okay, between the 2 points, yes, Yogendra, very quickly, and then I'll move to the others. Yes.
May I just say underline one point of additional difference, which is that Swapan Dasgupta thinks that the rise of political Hindu is in a sense affirmation of Hinduism. And I think that it is a denial of everything that Hinduism stands for. It is a denial of everything that India stands for.
Okay.
Well, it's a negation of dhimmitude, as I would see it. It's a negation of the entire thing of meekness of what Vivekananda called the mild Hindu, the patient Hindu. That's not what it is. It's an assertive Hindu which is coming out into the world and heralding its Bharat's entry into the 21st century.
Okay, we've got two very...
How colonial is this view of Hinduism? How colonial? I'm surprised, Swapan Dasgupta.
I'm surprised you are talking about it. You have a very caricatured view of Hinduism. You have a very caricatured view of what nationhood stands for. We do not stand for permanent subordination. And that's the point which is being driven home.
Okay, I'll just stop you, both of you for a moment, because Pavan Verma, you've written on Hinduism and you're hearing right at the very start. The question that I posed is more to do with what is going to happen in the next week. Are the religious ceremonies political, religious, or a bit of both? We have two different definitions or two different views on what the political Hindu is all about. Your view.
Thank you, Rajdeep. Frankly, it is a religious ceremony because a temple has been built whose Pran Pratishtha is taking place. The earlier attempt to build the temple was amaryadit, when the mosque was demolished illegally. And the highest BJP leadership expressed regret and condemned the way it was done. This time, I believe it is the consequence of a Supreme Court judgment, and therefore it is in consonance with Maryada, which is what Maryada Purushottam Ram stands for. Now, between the two extreme views you have heard, I have a slightly middle position to take. I believe that there is a certain new assertion among Hindus. Part of it is probably due to an urge for the correction of the narrative of history, where during the Turkic invasion, there was wanton destruction, there was pillage of unlimited proportions, there was destruction of centers of learning. Hinduism survived because of the Bhakti movement, which was one of the most powerful movements for 600 years in India, where Hinduism went from sanctum sanctorums to the common people in their own languages. But that narrative of history was sought to be glossed over for well-intentioned reasons in the aftermath of partition and the religious frenzies and hysteria and violence it had provoked. Now there is an attempt on the part of Hindus as a whole, and certainly some segments of them even more strongly, to rectify that narrative. The Ram temple has to be seen in that context. In that context, there was a movement which may have started out by a political inspiration as much as astha or faith. After the BJP was reduced to just 2 seats in 1984, they needed a strong emotional issue on which to regain the connect with the masses, and in 1990, Shri Lal Krishna Advani started the Rath Yatra. Let me say, immediately there were no political dividends. The BJP in UP ceased to be the ruling party. It became the single largest party. Then it lost the part. But the BJP and the RSS and its organizations have been in the forefront for the construction of the Ram temple. So when the opposition says that they are going to politicize this event, it's the writing was written on the wall. Obviously, for a movement they have fought for 3 decades and have finally got a decision by the Supreme Court, why would the BJP or the RSS not try to claim credit for it? What the opposition needs to have done is to have come out much in advance with a counter narrative which seemed to be reasonable to the masses, to say that Ram belongs to everyone, that this is not a decision of the BJP but of the Supreme Court, that we are happy that the temple has been built, and we hope it will not be used for political reasons to create any further divide or acrimony in society, but as Sri Ram stands for. Because, Rajdeep, this is important and I want to make the point. I am a student of Hindu philosophy. Ram is, in explicit words by both Valmiki and Tulsidas, actually the Brahm incarnate, the cosmic pervasive consciousness. And Ram is only the Sagun avatar of that all-pervasive consciousness. So he is in you, he is in me, he is in animate, inanimate objects. And Ram, therefore, is not to be appropriated by any political party, but has been obviously used by the BJP and RSS before the elections, when the inauguration is taking place on 27, when it could well have taken place on Ram Navami. So that was to be expected. I ask you a simple question. If you believe what, for instance, Yogendra ji is saying, where was your counter narrative?
Okay, we'll
Where
come
was it?
we'll come to the counter narrative in a moment. I've heard you out patiently. I just for a moment want to turn to the politics which is being played out, because that's my second question, and I'll bring you in, Rahul Verma, because you track the political mood. Is the Mandir issue being used by Prime Minister Modi for image building in an election year? That's as direct as I can get. You answer that, Rahul Verma. Do you believe that this is now, in a way, just directly linked to vote bank politics, to capture the Hindu vote? The political Hindu vote has been expanded by Prime Minister Modi.
Rajdeep, in electoral democracies, any issue that can be politicized and that can fetch votes. Most politicians do that. And I don't think BJP or Prime Minister Modi is any different on that. Certainly, Ram Mandir issue is going to be played into 2024 elections, and they would hope that it fetches them some additional vote. Let me also make two more points. One, I think, this is a very, very important moment for post-independent India. And of course, this moment is going to be read very differently by different parties or different worldviews. And what we saw in this debate so far is three sort of like strands on how they see the contemporary moment. And in some ways, this is a culmination of a long historical battle. And if you think about politics and political parties representing different ideas about the nation, about the country, we are very much seeing it here in this debate. Second point, which is very, very important, we think of religion and religiosity as a constant thing. Of course, at the moment, how we thought about Hinduism and practice of Hinduism is getting redefined. Personally, I was born very close to a village near Ayodhya, and I was very, very young when the Babri Masjid demolition took place. So for me also, like in some ways, my own sort of like journey of an individual is also seeing how politics and religion is getting intermixed, and how both are reinforcing each other in its journey. And so going forward, if you just want to think in electoral terms, what the latest sort of like survey data indicates that there is an uptick for the BJP and uptick in the popularity of the Prime Minister Modi. Now, is it only the Ram Mandir issue which is bringing that uptick? I don't think so, because no party, and especially BJP and Prime Minister Modi, is trying to put the entire 2024 campaign on just Ram Mandir issue. And what Swapan Das Gupta was trying to hint at, that Ram Mandir issue is going to be part of a larger narrative of emerging India. And that's where the G20, that's where Ram Mandir, everything is basically trying to glue into one single idea, which is that India is trying to emerge from its colonial past, from its sort of like shadows. Now, whether this is going to hurt India in the long run, that is where I think the disagreement is going to come from, and what we are witnessing here today.
That's right. Rising India or rising Bharat, as the BJP would like to call it, in a way, Sumansi Raman, I want to just ask you to reflect upon the fact the Prime Minister is visiting a lot of temples in southern India. He's done it earlier this week. He's doing it next week as well. Does southern India have a very different perspective to this rising Bharat as symbolized by the Ram Mandir?
Yeah, Rajdeep, I think there are clearly two Indias as far as the electoral dividends that are linked with the Ram Mandir are concerned. And I see very clearly North India and parts of Western India quite different from how the south and the eastern part of the country actually views this. Now, there are, of course, segments of the population and sizable numbers who welcome the construction of the Ram Mandir across the country, including the south and the east and so on. But electorally, I think Hindutva has always had a very limited appeal in the south. One potential reason is that the south has faced less invasions in historical terms than the north. And, there have been Hindu rulers who have ruled in southern India for centuries. We've had the Chola Empire, we've had the Kakatiyas, we had the Rashtrakutas, we have the Nayak kings, we've had, various rulers, Kalinga region and so on. So basically, there's the appeal of Hindutva is limited. And that is why, and I feel that the Prime Minister understands that perfectly, which is why he is pushing into the south. I mean, he may be visiting temples in UP and Bihar in the months to come. But he knows that the BJP is on a very strong wicket in the Hindi heartland. And therefore, the visit to go to Kerala, to Guruvayur, and then in Lepakshi in Andhra Pradesh. Tomorrow, he's going to be in Srirangam in Tamil Nadu, and then going to Rameshwaram. So all of this is because the Prime Minister realizes that the emotional pull that the Ram Mandir inauguration is going to have is there in certain parts of the country, but the South remains a kind of a last bastion
Can
where
I-
there
can
is
I
still
just-
a popular sentiment, but
Can-
it's not necessarily going to translate into a huge swing in votes for the party.
Can I just get you, Swapan Dasgupta, to quickly respond to that? There is a sense that what we are seeing also is a ritualistic, some would say Brahminical Hinduism, which is once again being reinforced, a very a particular kind of Hinduism, or Hindutva as it's referred to, which doesn't connect necessarily across the country. Is this a pan-Indian? Do you believe this is a pan-Indian emotional moment when you say rising Bharat, rising India?
Firstly, it's ironic that you're saying it's a sort of Brahminical thing, because the critique which the Congress has been preferring is that it's inadequately Brahminical and inadequately Shastric. That's their critique of the whole thing. So I don't buy this Brahminical thing. There is a very, very, there is a certain, what I have called evangelical Hindutva, which is there. Now, the appeal of the Ram movement is there all over the country. But yes, you're right that this will not necessarily translate into a vote for the BJP in the same way. I mean, that's given. You know that. We know that. There are other factors like historical reasons, organizational depth, etc., which is there. But
is it about what I call Moditva? Modi plus. No. We are seeing these images of the Prime Minister going to temples, all of which designed to project the Prime Minister in some as a larger than life figure. That it is less about Ram now, more about Modi is what the critics say. It's not about Ram, it's about Mr. Modi.
Look, you can take your pick on all that sort of thing. It is a fact that these elections are going to be essentially very, very presidential in character. And one of the factors which is going to influence people's decision-making, among other things, is going to be the personality of the Prime Minister and the belief that is this man capable of leading India towards a new future in the next 5 years. These are questions which are there. And you can take your pick about which issue. Is Article 370 going to be important? Is the Ram Mandir? Is it the fact that there is in India's place in the world? All these sort of things, an assertive India. There's a bouquet of issues which are there. Now, which one in particular is going to be the most dominant thing? But an overlay of all this is the fact that there is the Prime Minister who stands for all this. Now, is this man capable of leading India into the thing? And the BJP would hope, and it will try, to make sure that in all the 540 odd constituencies in India,
right,
it will be Modi who is the candidate. But as we all know, the returns from that will be uneven. There will be areas in the south which will not give the same amount of returns to the BJP as there would be. But there will be unexpected gains for the BJP in the east and maybe even in the south. And just like Northeast was an area which was, a desert for the BJP in the past, and now it's, yielding results.
Okay, let me turn. I take your point. Let's turn to Yogendra Yadav on the next question, because you are in the Northeast, Yogendra Yadav. And the question is simply this: has the Opposition India Alliance scored a self-goal by staying away from the January 22nd event? You heard Pawan Verma there earlier suggesting that the opposition needs a counter-narrative. The BJP is unapologetic about its Hindutva. We can argue whether it's mixing religion with politics in a way that some believe is against the constitution of this country or what the constitution envisaged. But there'll be others who will say in the absence of a counter-narrative, has the opposition scored a self-goal? Your response?
Rajdeep, no, I don't think it's a self-goal by not going to the temple ceremony of the 22nd. The point about opposition needing a counter-narrative is absolutely very well taken. I completely agree with Pawan Verma. But allow me to say something. This whole thing, what's amazing to me is how easily we've normalized everything. We are being told, Rahul, my friend, tells me, that anything that can be politicized for electoral purposes will be used. I think we forget an elementary thing, that this game called election is played in a ground which has boundaries, which has a referee. We forget that in India, a certain kind of use of religion in electoral politics is illegal. We just forget it. We just take it for granted. We start analyzing it. Tomorrow, You would start using murders for election, and someone would say, well, murders can be used. Well, let's count how many murders, how many votes, and so on. Let's not normalize these things. Number two, when my friend Pawan Verma says it's according to Maryada, I think he misuses the word, but his argument itself shows how limited the point was. I think what he wanted to say was that it is according to Vidhi Vidha. Yes, it is. Supreme Court has okayed it. It is according to Vidhan. But his own argument showed that it is not according to Maryada when he says use of Lord Rama by one political party. I'm sure he would say this is not according to Maryada. He himself argued and clearly showed that the manner in which the Supreme Court judgment was used was wrong. That using for a political party to claim credit for a Supreme Court judgment, is it according to Maryada? I think we've forgotten these words and we've come to a very colonial view. Allow me to insist, this is a very colonial view of what is religion, and this is very colonial Eurocentric view of what is nation, what is being given to us.
But let's look at the question. Let's look at the question which the opposition raised in their response. So certainly the Congress did when it rejected the invitation, saying religion is a private matter. This is a political event being staged by the BJP, hence we don't want to be. But the fact is, for the longest time, religion and politics has mingled. Now it appears it's normalized to use a word that you use, Yogendra Yadav. Pawan Verma, you want to respond to that? That in a way, is religion and politics now being normalized that effectively takes it out of the purview of what the Constitution stood for? Now it's open season. You could argue that the Congress party has done it in other ways in the past, but the fact is the BJP is doing it unapologetically, and we've normalized it, saying, well, you're going to get votes because of it.
You see, Rajdeep, I agree with Rahul that political parties will, within the ambit of law, wherever possible, use emotive issues in order to have electoral resonance. This is the fact. I mean, why else would Rajiv Gandhi have got an ordinance to overrule a very reasonable judgment by the Supreme Court on the Shah Bano case? So, political parties are using it, religion or any other issue. My grouse, my concern, my sense of anguish is that is the opposition so naive as to believe that once there is a Supreme Court judgment which is sanctioning the Ram Temple, the BJP and the RSS and its affiliated organizations will not use this event in order to get political mileage, even if they say it's not a political event? Because that is obvious. What has the opposition done from 2019 onwards to tell the people what it believes is the role of religion in politics and what are the issues of greater priority and urgency which the people should focus on, and what is important to keep the right balance between religion and livelihood and other issues? This is my point. The opposition has left the field clear to the BJP to more or less appropriate not only Sri Ram, but the entire Hindu agenda for political gain. And that is because we have never ever seen in history at such a crucial juncture such a fragmented, divided and electorally ineffective opposition.
Can I just get Yogendra Yadav? Can I just get
shows how
I take your point. Can I just get Yogendra Yadav to respond to that, because that is also linked to my next question. Will the Mandir campaign eventually drown Rahul Gandhi's Nyay campaign and any livelihood issues? Because you are part of his Nyay Yatra, Yogendra Yadav, but respond to what you've just heard from Pawan Verma, that effectively it's the opposition which has given the space to the BJP to openly, unapologetically mix religion with politics and not tell people what's the better alternative out there.
In commenting on mixing religion with politics, my friend Pawan Verma also mixes ought with is. Opposition hasn't done it. Wasn't BJP going to do so? Of course it was going to do so. Of course anyone could see that. Is it right or wrong? I mean, let's get that right. So I'm glad now at least my friend Pawan Verma says that yes, it's wrong. But we should be intelligent. We should be able to see that. Yeah, now that we say, and also, but he also qualified by saying within the purview of law. And I'm sure he was implying that what BJP is doing is beyond the purview of law. Indian, by any,
Now, how is it beyond?
had an
No, no, let's be
independent election
specific.
commission.
How is it beyond the purview of law, according to you?
Indian law, electoral laws, reiterated by the Supreme Court, I think 4 years ago, strictly ban the use of religion, religious emotions, religious appeal for electoral purposes. And if we had an independent election commission, they would have disqualified. I'm sure Congress committed similar things in the past. Congress should have also been punished, and so should this be. This is what's happening is illegal. But let me focus now on your thing, the question that you've asked about opposition's failure. I think there's a dual failure involved here. Pawan Verma is also right in something he implied. There has been a very serious failure of secular politics, because our secular politics has been for the longest time culturally vacuous and has not been able to appeal to an ordinary sentiment of an ordinary believing Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Christian, anyone. So yes, there is a fundamental failure of secular politics, its inability to re-enchant constitutional ideals for ordinary people. And BJP has taken advantage of that vacuum. Other parties, MIM has also taken advantage of this vacuum. Akali Dal also took advantage of this vacuum. That's happening. And the second failure so far has been opposition's inability to foreground to the people of this country the gross governance failure of the BJP for the last 10 years in terms of livelihood issues. The simple question that opposition could have taken, I'm sure, to the people were the following. Number one, here is a party that promised 2 crore employment every year. What has been its record? When it started, total number of unemployed was 1 crore. Today, it's 4.2 crore. Second question, here's a party that promised doubling of farmers' income. How much has it improved? The government is not willing to release the data. There's no answer. Actually,
Okay,
it's
can I-
a state static.
Can I? Yes.
There is a period in which the country has seen increase in inequality. This is a period when female participation in employment has reduced, participation rate in labor has reduced. All these things could have been taken to the people, but the opposition has not done it successfully. And I see Nyaya Yatra as a somewhat belated attempt to raise the right question.
But do you believe, Rahul Verma, that an emotive issue like the Mandir, the imagery that we are seeing playing constantly on television, will drown out these livelihood issues? That the debate in 2024 is not about which party is in a better position to provide jobs, to ensure greater labor participation of women, which is focused, let's say, on education. We've just seen an ASA report that says large parts of this country, people do not even, students, high school students cannot do basic maths or read their own textbooks. Do you believe these issues don't play out? Indian elections are about emotion. The BJP is picked on an emotional issue. It will drown out livelihood.
Rajdeep, I think in most part of the world, most elections are swayed by emotive appeals and passion. Should that happen? I don't think so, but this is true about most places. Even in 2019, if you look 2 questions separately, which is the question on economic anxiety, people did display a sense of anxiety on the questions of price rise, unemployment, inequality. But the Pulwama and Balakot in some ways sort of like took away those economic concerns for a moment, right? This is what is in classic sort of like literature would be known as rally round the flag effect, that if there is a national security concerns, other concerns are going to downplay in voters' mind while they are going to vote. Something similar might happen even in this election. And if you ask a separate questions, what are your 3 biggest concerns? I think price rise and unemployment is going to cross or would be the top 2 choices. And this is what we do see in the survey data. So it depends on the opposition, how they are going to create a campaign platform on economic issues where they can trump the emotive or passionate appeals which is being made by the BJP.
Okay.
So that's point 1. 2, voters are always going to evaluate whether on the question of price rise, unemployment, jobs, growth, and other kind of thing, is opposition a more credible alternative than the party which is in power, right? And unless opposition has an economic blueprint, just by raising these issues, I don't think that would be enough to bring voters to their side.
Can I just bring in Sumant Raman? Is the view very different from Chennai? When you look at it, when we look at this Ram Mandir versus livelihood, if at all there is this binary, does the voter see it very differently, or do you believe there is that emotional appeal that the Ram Mandir will have this time even south of the Vindhyas?
No, apart from parts of Karnataka, I cannot see the Ram Mandir having a massive appeal in terms of a vote-catching issue in the south. Now, Rajdeep, I just want to say that the BJP's biggest trump card in 2024 is the opposition. I mean, I don't see in this election a great deal of enthusiasm to vote for Mr. Modi. But, the immediate question, who else? And look, this was a trap which was laid by the BJP on the Ram Mandir invitation, and the opposition fell into it. Congress could easily have said, look, this is a political event, but we want to condemn the fact that it is being politicized, but we have great deference for Lord Ram, and we are going and we will attend this function. That's it. And let's look at it. Their Karnataka government announces special pujas in 3,000 temples. The UP Congress leaders queue up and in front of the cameras to take a dip in the Sarayu River. Supriya Srinath is sitting in Ayodhya. What is the message which is going out? Mamata Banerjee says we will do special pujas. Arvind Kejriwal says Sundarakand will be chanted. So what is the signal that you're sending out? You are sending out a confused signal to the people, and then you're also giving the BJP a handle to beat you comfortably and say that you are anti-Hindu because you're not attending this program. I mean, that is as bizarre as it gets. You held 4 meetings of the India Alliance without announcing a single seat sharing agreement in one state. So all of this means the opposition is the BJP's trump card. The more they make it, as Swapanji said, presidential form, Modi versus who, it plays right into what the BJP wants.
Modi versus who? But I just want to quote what Narasimha Rao reportedly once famously said, that you can defeat the BJP, but you can't defeat Ram. Do you believe, Swapan Dasgupta, that's how the BJP wants to pitch it? Presidential, yes, but also about that the BJP is the flag bearer of this political Hindutva. Now, Yogendra Yadav says the BJP is thereby, in a way, moving beyond constitutional propriety by exploiting religion and religious emotions. He believes it's anti-constitutional. Your response to that, is it the BJP invoking Ram?
I think I've heard some of the most bizarre arguments here. There is a suggestion that the Ram Temple, and that's a quite right suggestion, that the Ram Temple is being built courtesy the sanction accorded by the Supreme Court. That I don't think anyone will deny that. But it's also being suggested that the Ram Temple, everything associated with the construction and the consecration and the Pran Pratishtha of the Ram Temple will have to be done clinically without arousing a single element of religious fervor. Absurd. How do you do it? No one must be there. There must be no saffron flags. There must be no overt signs of religiosity. It must be a clinical, constitutional affair, so that Ram being transformed into something like a constitutional deity sans any ideological, cultural, religious baggage. Now that's an absurd sort of situation. Whether the Congress and the other opposition parties should have attended this, I personally believe because they were always consistently opposed to the construction of the Ram Temple right throughout the 30 years. They were always. And they believed that the Supreme Court, the reference to the court, was a way of judicial prevarication, which would result in no decision ever being taken.
Well, to be fair, there are different congressmen who have spoken in different voices. To be fair on that, different congressmen have spoken. Yeah, go ahead.
Rajdeep, let me just say,
yeah,
I believe that the Congress should have attended it, partly to atone for these misdeeds of the past and to avoid themselves being called anti-Hindu. I'm not calling them anti-Hindu, but that suspicion that they are not particularly sympathetic to the impulses of the Hindu faith will persist. It may be an unfair suggestion, but I think, everything is not fair in love and elections. As far as, directly talking about faith and elections, I don't think anybody will. But I think the fact that Ram Temple is there, it will be touted as one of those icons of an emerging India. Now, whether you want to say that itself would mean religion, it's probably stretching it too far. So I think you're going to have a bit of a tough time actually disentangling culture and religion from the Indian reality.
Let me get both Pawan Verma and Yogendra Yadav to respond to that. You first, Pawan Verma. You just heard what Swapan Dasgupta says. He says, look, this is the reality that that the opposition at one level is escaping from, that Ram has this emotional pull, and you can't expect this to be a constitutional deity. These are his words. It will be in some way or the other seen as a religious deity.
Of course, I cannot disagree with that. If the Ram temple is being built, to what extent can you sanitize the event? By keeping all semblance of popular support, which will translate into political gain.
No, are we saying,
but
recall what happened, just a minute. Recall what happened with the Somnath Mandir in the 1950s. The Prime Minister Nehru said, I am staying away from it because I don't want the Indian state to be identified with a particular religion. In a way, it seems that the burial of Nehruvian secularism is taking place.
Well, I think Nehruvian secularism I'm very proud of Jawaharlal Nehru and his legacy, however much denigrated he is today. But I do believe that in many ways, Jawaharlal Nehru, for all that was his greatness, was out of sync with some of the realities on the ground of the ancient civilizational heritage of India. As someone who saw modernity entirely in a Western paradigm, he largely dismissed some of the remarkable achievements of the past as the deadwood of the past, that we have to move out of it. This is not in sync with Indian reality. And that is why Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who's as Gandhian as you can get, as president, decided to go for Somnath. That doesn't mean that Dr. Rajendra Prasad will not go to a church, will not go to a masjid, will not go to a gurdwara. In India, secularism is not defined in the French term of complete separation of church and state, but it is defined in terms of respect for all faiths. And that is the danger I want to point out to, that the Ram temple will be inaugurated on 22nd January. But if there are elements in the larger Sangh Parivar who troll Mohan Bhagwat ji, the president of the RSS, if he goes to a mosque or meets with leading Muslim intellectuals for having betrayed Hinduism,
so
is the BJP any more in control of its own narrative? This is the danger. Where is the right balance? Because the opposition has proved itself totally ineffectual. I think they met in 2023 in June. Within a week, they should have had a common minimum program, a secretariat and a working group on seat organization. They had 4 meetings after that and nothing has come about.
But can I just come back to this, because I find it intriguing, Yogendra Yadav, that when you speak of constitutional secularism, when you speak about the fears that you have of religion and politics being merged in a manner that's unconstitutional, many will say that was the old Nehruvian secularism which is being buried by the rise of political Hindutva. Do you concede that that's exactly what's happening, and which is why many believe that 2024 will see almost the emergence of a new Indian Republic, or this rising Bharat as it's called?
Well, New Indian Republic would be one way of putting it, or the death of Republic of 1950 could be another way of putting it, but that's be as it may. I think Sopan feels very, very strongly, because I think I've said some harsh truths. Ridiculous. Isn't it ridiculous to expect there would be no religious fervor? Of course it would be ridiculous to expect the absence of religious fervor. But from what I recall, I think in the beginning of this show, Sopan Das said that it is political. Is it reasonable to expect that there would be no
It's
arousing of political fervor? Yes, sir, this is reasonable to expect in a civilized society. Second, to think of constitutional deity, that of course would be ridiculous. But who's expecting that? But to expect that deity worship and consecration of temples will follow constitutional boundaries. Yes, sir, this is reasonable to expect. Sir, if we were to change it the other way around, and if the word Hindu was to be replaced by Muslim, Christian, or something else, you and I and everyone else will expect constitution to be obeyed.
Okay,
Yes, there is a lot wrong with Nehruvian secularism. I have myself been a very staunch critic of secularism. And on this very show, I've just said that cultural vacuity of Indian secularism, its inability to relate to the religious, cultural, civilizational language is what has cost us. But there was something nice about that secularism, which is for head of the state or head of the government not to go to religious ceremony in their capacity as head of the government. This, I believe, was absolutely right about that secularism. Let us not bury everything of that secularism. Yes, it is absolutely wrong on the part of the Prime Minister of India, the governor, and the Chief Minister to go there as governor and chief minister. Congress also did these mistakes, and those were also mistakes.
Of course,
it is wrong for political parties to go. Congress should go to that ceremony. Why should Congress go? Why should any party go? Congress.
No, but you will recall, Yogendra,
the idea that a political party goes for a religious consecration. It's a ridiculous idea.
But you've got Indira Gandhi, who inaugurated a Bharat Mata temple in 1983. You had Rajiv Gandhi starting his campaign from Ayodhya as Ram Rajya, and you had the Shilanyas being performed. So in a way, this is a culmination, perhaps many believe, of the failings of leaders over the years who have now normalized it. It is now normal in a way.
Rajdeep, you didn't hear me. Rajdeep, you didn't hear me. I just said that yes, in the past, after that very correct position taken by Jawaharlal Nehru, in the later days, the things did degenerate. Congress made not one, many mistakes of that kind. One that Pawan has pointed out, the Shahbano judgment reversal. That's a terrible thing to have done by any government. All these are mistakes.
Okay.
But does that mean that we all say, all right, because, and incidentally, Bharat Mata Mandir is not a religious temple of that kind, but in general, yes, for political parties and political leaders to go in their official capacity. Mind you, if Narendra Modi ji goes in his capacity as Narendra Modi and participates, is the judgment for any temple, it's absolutely his right. Ram temple, Godse temple, whatever he likes, he can do that. But to go as the Prime Minister of this country, tomorrow can the President of this country, Prime Minister of this country preside over some church?
Can I get Yogendra?
As Prime Minister, President of this country. That's wrong.
Okay. Swapan Dasgupta, you want a quick response?
Well, I don't think he's going there as Prime Minister. He's going there in his capacity as judgment, as someone who represents.
No. It says Swapan. It says it on the invitation card. Every formal thing mentions him as Prime Minister.
You know, the point is,
that's my problem.
This is an occasion which has an exceptional importance. It's as important as the Somnath one, as the opening of the Somnath temple. And I'm sure there might be other occasions in future. It's as important as the opening of Parliament, as of the opening of the new Parliament. I believe that both are equally important things in different symbolic ways of what this India, if you want, you can call it the Second Republic. That's up to you. But this is equally important, and I say so with full awareness of what I'm saying.
So you're saying he's not going in his capacity as Prime Minister?
I am saying that it is happening
one by one.
This is really an event of exceptional importance, which is there. It's going to define the soul of India for the coming decades. It is a culmination of a long series of things, and hopefully it will put an end and bury the discord which had taken place, which has been a troubling feature of Indian nationhood.
Okay.
It's a starting point. It's a symbol of renewal. It's a symbol of.
That's one view, of course, that it's a symbol of renewal.
It's a view which the Prime Minister has openly expressed.
Okay.
He's openly expressed that. I'm not saying this is my view alone.
Okay, let Sumant.
This is something which is there. And where
Rajdeep.
Yogendra is getting worked up is he thinks that this is something which should not be equated with the opening of Parliament, for example.
Okay.
That constitutes one estate and this constitutes another estate, and never the twain must meet.
Okay, so we've got just a couple of minutes. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Yogendra, since the response was to you, you respond and then Suman. Yes, Yogendra.
Rajdeep, everyone is entitled to believing that one particular event is more important than anything else. My daughter's birthday can be more important than anything else for me in the world. I'm entitled to it. But in a constitutional republic, to say in constitutional legal terms, this Ram temple is as important as the new parliament. This is bizarre, astonishing, silly.
Okay. Suman,
I'll tell you why.
You made the point.
One sentence. India or Bharat, as we know it, wasn't created, nationhood of India or Bharat wasn't created on 26 January 1950. It predates that. India is a far more ancient civilization, and it incorporates both those impulses.
You know, it's a civilizational versus constitutional argument, but yes.
Who differs with
I'm saying
that?
both are important.
Okay, Suman, respond.
How can a
very
sane
quick.
person differ with that?
Rajdeep,
Yes.
we are well on our way down a very slippery slope of competitive Hindutva. The opposition parties today are vying to be seen as only as soft Hindutva proponents and not against. They are not even using the word secularism a great deal as they used to maybe 5 years ago. They are playing catch up and trying to say make sure that they're not. No, the point I'm making is once you go down this path, it becomes very difficult, and history has got many examples where it becomes very difficult to get off the bandwagon. And let's remember, every succeeding leader, Vajpayee ji was a moderate, but you know what? Advani was a hardliner. Advani is now moderate. You know what? But Mr. Modi is a hardliner. In 5 years' time, Mr. Modi will be accused of not being Hindu enough. It is a slope.
Okay, so competitive Hinduism playing out. I take your point. I want to give Pawan Verma 30 seconds at the very end. Very quickly, Mr. Verma.
You know, Rajdeep, you know what the real pity is? In all of this debate, the essence of Sri Ram worship is bhakti. Bhakti, bhakti. And Tulsidas says, and I want to just close by this doha, Jati Pati Kul Dharma Badhai Dhana Bal Parijan Guna Chaturai. None of these matters. Bhakti heen nar sohiye kaisa bin jal barid dekhiye jaisa. None of this jati, pati, kul, dharm, status, wealth, power, nothing, qualities, nothing matters. You have to give your bhakti to Sri Ram. And unfortunately in our country, we have reached a point where that very bhakti, which Tulsidas says, if you don't have bhakti, you are like a cloud which cannot rain. We have reduced it to the lowest common denominator of politics. It's unfortunate, and I fear what it promotes for the future.
Well, on that sobering note, that Tulsidas Doha, it's time to end this edition of the Political Rumble on Mandir Politics. Religion and politics in this country can be a toxic mix at times. For others, though, it may well be energizing and, dare I say, vote-catching. Either way, we leave you, the viewers, to decide how you see the interplay of religion and politics. Thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe. Jai Hind. Namaskar.